Imagine if you could see why you blanked on your uncle's name or couldn't pick a restaurant for date night. That would be an amazing help in improving future behavior as well as diagnosing problems, particularly for our AI peers. So, on this episode of AI with Old Things, let's look at how this challenge has been tackled. Starting with ancient navigation. Imagine trying to navigate the vast, featureless Pacific Ocean in a tiny outrigger canoe centuries before GPS. Terrifying, right? But these ingenious islanders, particularly those in the Marshall Islands, weren't just drifting aimlessly. They had their secret weapon, the Rebbelib. Think of a Rebbelib not as your typical paper map with neat little lines of latitude and longitude. Oh no, that would be far too, boring. Instead, picture a delicate lattice of thin wooden strips, often coconut palm or pandanus root, tied together with fibers. Dotted across this framework were small shells or pebbles. At first glance, it might look like an abstract piece of art, something you'd hang on your wall after a particularly inspiring trip to a modern art museum. But each curve, each intersection, each carefully placed shell held a wealth of navigational knowledge. Each element represented something crucial about the wave patterns around the islands. The straight or gently curved sticks primarily depicted the consistent swell patterns, the long rhythmic undulations that travel across the ocean. Experienced navigators could read these swells by feeling them against the hull of their canoes, almost as if the ocean itself was a textured map beneath them. The points where these sticks intersected often represented the location of islands or groups of islands. The shells or pebbles attached at these points served as tactile markers. When a navigator embarked on a journey, their Rebbelib wasn't just a passive representation of the ocean. It was a tool that helped them make decisions in real time. By feeling the swells and comparing them to the patterns on their chart, they could orient themselves, anticipate the proximity of islands even before they were visible on the horizon, and adjust their course accordingly. The Rebbelib was a tangible record of past decisions about the ocean's behavior, guiding present and future choices on the water. Even older than Rebbelib charts is history's first paycheck. Citizens of Uruk in modern-day Iraq wrote in a picture language called cuneiform. On one tablet, excavated from the area, we can see a human head eating from a bowl, meaning ration, and a conical vessel, meaning beer. Scattered around are scratches recording the amount of beer for a particular worker. It's the world's oldest known payslip, as well as a good example for us for how to use symbols to document and exchange decisions. To wrap up our journey, let's get cozy and be inspired by blanket weavers.
You're a genius with the patterns and yarn and have become the foremost weaver for the rich. And just sold an elegant blanket to the Queen of England. Months later, an urgent request from the royal house arrives. Oh no! The teenage prince from Spain has spilt wine all over the royal blanket. Another must be delivered before the Queen realizes what has happened, or the treaty may end.
How did weavers recreate their work or share what was made? Or even design what was done for others to follow? Patterns, colors, and layers were documented using a grid-like notation, as you can see here. Similar to a peg plan. The placement of holes on the cards corresponded to specific warp threads that needed to be raised or lowered during the weaving process, essentially encoding the design into a physical and storable format. A drawboy would configure a loom, then lift the threads at each stage as necessary to recreate the intricate patterns. At the same time, the weaver would pass a shuttle back and forth to ensure the drawboy had the material necessary. In 1804, Joseph Marie Jacquard invented the punch card system, examples of which you can see above me on the right, which took the peg plan to the next level, making them durable cartridges that guide automated looms. Notice how the designs are a projection from the machine to design, meaning a transform from physical to conceptual.
That's the end of this episode of AI with Old Things. Hope you had fun, and I really hope I've helped you think differently about ways to document decision making.